So back in the OG days of War Tycoon, there used to be just so many vehicles that used to be able to shine, and they were just overall very good vehicles that everyone used to go to. However, as time went on and the metas have changed in War Tycoon, most of these vehicles have unfortunately had a downfall. In today's video, guys, I'll be making you a list of every single section of the garages, like let's say the garage, the tank section, not to add the helicopter section, and then the planes. I'll basically be covering vehicles that have unfortunately fallen off, that used to be just really good and really fun to play around with, but they are just unfortunately not that good in this meta. And these are going to be some very big vehicles in terms of memory that we all pretty much miss, and it used to be a good old days of us using it, but unfortunately they are not good anymore. So the first thing which I'm going to be starting is I'm going to be starting with the garage. So the first thing which I would like to actually go for is, as unfortunate as it is, I'm going to be covering the laser-free APC. Man, I do miss the good old days when this thing first came out, and it used to be just so fun at being able to like destroy any vehicle. But I believe this thing even needed a nerf when it was first released, and overall the idea of APC vehicles in War Tycoon back in the day, it used to be just such a fun idea. These rockets were just so fun to actually play around with, but as time came, as the tanks came to the game, stuff just started to become a lot more unfortunate for this vehicle, and the design of this is just so awesome, but this vehicle is just doesn't really serve that much of a purpose in the modern meta, which is just really unfortunate. But really, man, I just so much love the design of this, and I gotta say, one of the coolest vehicles are the ones that unfortunately have suffered the most. Anyway, let's actually move into the next one. So the next vehicle on this list, we have ourselves the HIMARS. I'm gonna be honest, the HIMARS always had a problem of just being incredibly hard to aim. However, back in the day when we had ourselves the older map and stuff wasn't just really spread out far apart, I'm gonna be honest, aiming this was a lot easier. You guys could actually attack people's shields with this, and when people did get close to you, it was a lot easier to aim at them because there wasn't as much environment in the way that actually stops these fights from happening. Because now, if people do like to play it smart, because of so much environment we now have, we pretty much just have so many scenarios in which the HIMARS pretty much just gets outclassed in every single scenario. It did always have a problem with aiming, however, it used to be a lot more fun back then when it was released on the older maps. Alrighty, so now actually moving into the tanks. The first tank which I would love to cover, as unfortunate as it is, we all do love the M1 Abrams. Ever since this actually first released in War Tycoon, when the Abrams X update came in, this thing used to be incredibly powerful and was just able to actually rival pretty much every single vehicle in the game. And it was pretty damn close at almost being better than the Abrams X. The overall idea of the M1 Abrams was just so incredibly fun, and it used to just have so much health, so much firepower compared to every single vehicle that we had in the game. Back then, the helicopters did not have as much power in order to actually be able to counter the freaking M1 Abrams, and oh man, the good old days. It is just so unfortunate because these days, in this current meta, we don't really see the M1 Abrams being used as much because it's pretty much outclassed by every single wire-guided missile tank. Along with this, there is actually a lot more tanks which do have their versatilities, like the T-90s, basically like a better M1 Abrams that is able to counter planes, the T-14 that just has an explosive gun and more health, the Terminator, the PLO-1. Man, I really do miss the days when it was just so much more simpler and the M1 Abrams was on top, but it's not really that useful anymore. Developers, if you are watching this video, I heavily recommend you to buff this vehicle's health slightly, slowly also add APS once it does come out to this vehicle, and make it actually serve a good purpose, and make its third machine gun, which we have on the back right here. It's just absolutely useless. No one really uses this. Please make it useful. And another vehicle which we also have in terms of the tanks, as sad as it is, I'm not going to be spawning it in, but the mouse. It used to be really fun when it first came out. It used to be just incredibly powerful because no one really knew a strategy to counter it, but as people have learned and got better at using tanks, they just got really good at being able to circle their opponents, getting away from their cannon, and it was just so easy to counter it after a little bit of time. So the mouse has also unfortunately fallen off. It's all those really unique vehicles that we love, like the World War II prototypes, the vehicles that are the best in the world, but it's just sad what has happened to them. Alrighty, so now actually moving into the helicopters, and this is where the biggest downfalls start to actually come in. As unfortunate as it is, I'm going to be ranking the Mi-24 Hind, and honestly and realistically, okay, what is happening to my game? Why is nothing loading in? Hello? What is my internet? Yeah, anyway, talking about the Mi-24 Hind, back when the Mi-24 Hind first came to War Tycoon, I gotta say, it was one of the most unique vehicles in the game. It was just so fun because its explosive machine gun was just so incredibly good. Its area damage used to be better, it used to hit a lot more harder, and the bases bases, and the whole entire map was just so much more simple that I would honestly say that the older map when it first came out, I'd say the size of it was around 3 times smaller than the current one, which just allowed the Mi-24 Hind to have such an easier time raiding bases, but along with this, as the tank stuff came out to the game, and the Mi-24 Hind just didn't really become this useful anymore because it just was so easy to actually counter with tank shells. Anti-air also came in, the planes came in, pretty much almost every single vehicle in this game now outclasses the Mi-24 Hind. It is really unfortunate, but we can't really do anything. It is an unfortunate downfall. I would honestly rank the Mi-24 Hind these days as probably the best one for raiding bases, but not really good against anything else. It is just a sad what happened to it. I really do hope it's going to be getting a buff at some point, because right now it really does not fit the meta. It is a unique vehicle which most of us actually do not want to forget. Alrighty, so once again another vehicle following up with the Mi-24 Hind, we have ourselves the Eurocopter Tiger. And in this one, it's actually going to be my personal opinion rather than facts. I believe the Eurocopter is just so outclassed by the new modernized helicopters that were added into the game. When it first was released, people loved it because it had 8 lock-on missiles, and that was the main gimmick about it. It was really fast, and its lock-on missiles were just really good to use, and they were overall really nice counter to the helicopters that were in the game back in the day. It was pretty much also like a counter to the Mi-24 Hind, but as time came in, the better helicopters like the Raider X, the Invictus, and the Mi-28, all this stuff came out, and once again, the Eurocopter had an unfortunate downfall because it just got outclassed in every single way. Alrighty, now actually moving into the planes, that I gotta say the planes are probably one of my favorite vehicles in the game, but as unfortunate as it is, one of our favorite planes, the F-14 Tomcat, it is still used until this day, but let's all be honest, it does get outclassed by pretty much almost every single plane that we have right here. Like, it does still have a lot of gimmicks, such as having incredibly powerful cannon and still being good in terms of being able to counter tanks and etc. It's still incredibly fast, but the problem with it is that most of the vehicles that were added in this game and much more the newer planes are now just way better for the fact that they have better turning speed and most of their missiles do a lot more damage. The F-14 is still pretty good if I'll be honest, but it did have a little bit of a downfall as the newer planes were added into the game, and this is just such a unique plane, and personally I believe its turn rate should be slightly buffed, because right now, I'm gonna be honest, it's not that good and it does fall off to the more of the modern vehicles in the game. Alrighty, so the next vehicle on this list, we have ourselves the A-10 Warthog. I gotta tell you guys, the A-10 Warhog is probably my favorite plane in the game, but as unfortunate as it is, the A-10 Warthog in War Tycoon anymore, it does not really make sense. First of all, the way that it was actually added was kind of poor, I'm gonna be completely honest. When it was first added, it had a really cool gimmick. Everybody loved its Gatling gun, and everybody loved the brand new gimmick of having the freaking bombs. The bombs were just really cool when they were first added, but now in the modern meta, it just doesn't fare that well against planes and tanks. Like, it's supposed to be a tank buster, but it literally has lock-on missiles that do not do damage to tanks, but they instead do damage to planes. They are not even lock-onable into tanks. Like, it doesn't make any sense, even though this is a tank buster. Like, the bombs, they just don't do the job anymore, and it was only really cool when it was first added for the fact it just sounded really cool, it looked really cool, and it added a brand new gimmick of bombs. But other than this, as time went on, it just started being a lot more useless, and nobody really uses the A-10 Warhog anymore. Everybody just wishes it was buffed. Anyway guys, let me know in the comment section down below, what is your opinion on this list? Would you be adding any more vehicles in this list? I personally just believed these to be the most fair. It is unfortunate what happened to them. They are one of our favorite vehicles. I really do hope that they will be having some kind of buffs and changes over the years. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for all my channel members.